You know, one thing, as a transgender person myself, and as all the transgender people I've interacted with, one of the best, most courteous things you can say to someone other than, how's your day been, or what's your name, or something like that, ask them, how do you identify? I fucking love getting that question, because I'm just like, right, let me tell you a life story.
When I was at Ping Train last year, there were a good few people asked me, you know, sorry if this is offensive or whatever, but I'm afraid to ask, but what are your pronouns? And that's a question that's not offensive, generally. I can't think of really a situation where it's offensive to ask someone their pronouns. It's always okay if you're not sure to ask someone their pronouns. Actually, I might do as well as, you know, female pronouns and male pronouns. I use gender neutral pronouns, they, them, their. But there's also things like you mentioned earlier on, sie, zim, zir. And there's an awful lot of other ones. I think there's, in Swedish, there's hen or something.
Yes.
I don't speak Swedish, so I can't really tell what the other ones are. But, like, I think both of you were saying, you know, you're talking about inappropriate questions and things. A friend of mine got a message recently from someone and asked, sorry if this is a personal question, but are you pre-op or post-op? And it's kind of like, yes, bingo, you hit the nail on the head. It is a fucking personal question. It's about as personal as you could possibly get. So like, if you're talking to someone, you may need to know their pronouns, but you don't need to know what their body's like. And I think what happens to trans people and all that is it's kind of an even more extreme version of the kind of body policing that especially women go through, which is basically where people kind of decide there's public ownership over certain parts of a person. So if you find out that they're trans, then all the details of their medical history, their sexuality, loads of different things, especially
sexual
about the body.
interest is
People just decide, well, this topic is now out for public consumption, in the same way that people often will look at women's bodies and kind of treat them as objects of personal consumption, whether that person is putting their body out there willingly or not.
Misogyny affects everyone apart from men, unless thank you very much. See that? Good job. Cisgender.
Who doesn't know, by the way, cisgender is just opposite of transgender.
Yeah, y'all are cisgender unless you identify otherwise. If you're comfortable in the biological sex that you were given at birth, then you're cisgender. Oh, there's other pronouns. Fantastic. We had to Google that shit.
I'm not going to be able to pronounce any of these apart from sie, zim, zir, which is spelled.
It's exy, isn't it?
Yeah, exy. Yeah. Well, I think
it's basically the X pronoun.
No, they're usually they're generally only known within the trans community.
Can I just ask, like, who comes up with all these terms and stuff?
I wanted to ask that.
For the most part, they're generally made up by people in the transgender community. They're made up.
Some of the basic ones are just like linguistic terms. So like cisgender, in the Latin root of it, cis and trans are the opposite of each other.
Yeah.
And trans means like to, as in like to transcend or to transport, that kind of thing, like to move. And cis is just like the opposite of that.
It's to stay still because you're going nowhere with your life and weird. I'm messing now. See, that's.
I want that on a banner.
I have it tattooed back of my leg.
Like you always see on like.
Can we make that a t-shirt?
Loads of people just get really offended. Like, don't call me cis, that's offensive or whatever. Like, it just means not trans.
Yeah.
It's not offensive.
It's the whole thing, like when privilege and stuff, people get offended when you tell them that they have cis privilege, but that's not an offensive thing. You know.
Yeah. It's a fact.
It's like my friend put it brilliantly, and we were in the middle. It was kind of there was a cisgender man basically told me that he didn't want, in the middle of a discussion, told me he didn't want to be blocked in because he was a cisgender man, and I was like, well, I wonder what it would be like to be blocked in because of your gender identity, right?
Well, if you're okay, go, sorry, I was about to give out. Go.
One of the other guys turned around to him and was like, but you are a cisgender person. That's like saying, like, that's like me being like, I don't have brown hair, like I do have brown hair. Like, that's as simple as that is.
I think what he meant by that was that he didn't want to be labelled as something because of his gender.
No, he's a bollocks.
Well then, you know why he's labelled a bollocks? Because he's a bollocks.
Yeah. The thing about cisgender people often not wanting to kind of have that word ascribed to them, like, can you imagine if, you know, straight people were like, well, don't call me straight. What it comes down to is that these people, I think for some people it's kind of irksome to not be allowed to think of themselves as default or normal. That's the word that they want to use, and then kind of, oh, you're gay, you're out there, we're not straight, we're kind of the default, everyone else is kind of on the fringes around us. And it's the same thing, people just aren't used to having to feel that that there's anything specific about them. They're used to kind of thinking, well, I'm default and I'm the center of the world, so there's no words to describe me. I'm just human, and then I'm a politician, but this person is a trans politician or a female politician or a gay politician, whatever. Everyone else gets hyphenated identities.
I've never heard of a male politician. Like, you never hear that word.
That's true.
No.
Can you not just be a politician that so happened to be male?
Exactly.
This is the thing.
I was just going to say there a minute ago,
But you know, on that topic of being labelled, society has a lot of predispositions to put on people who are outside of these norms and things that I commonly hear. Like I'm a model. That's what I work as. That's what I do. And a lot of the time, I get contacted by photographers who say, "I've never worked with a trans model before. Would you like to work together?" And I get it. I don't really have that much of an issue with it, but I just wish that I could be known as a model who happens to be trans, because when I first came back onto the modeling scene after I came out as transgender, I really didn't want people to know that I was transgender. So I actually went through this habit of wearing breast forms, which are, you know, basically what people who get boob jobs get put inside them, but they're the outside ones. So
They're like chicken fillets, kind
yeah, but they're big ones, like they're deadly. They feel real and everything. Like, it's class.
No.
So I got these things, and I had a special bra that held them and everything. So every time I did a shoot, I would have to wear these things, and they would be really heavy, and I wouldn't be able to breathe very well because it's so tight on your body to make them look like they're a part of your body. So people wouldn't question my gender in my photos, and actually, I worked it out in my head that I would get more exposure as a model that didn't happen to be trans, you know. And now I don't do that anymore, because I realised, well, that's bullshit. So I copped on. And I don't do that anymore. And now I find people that are just like, "You're a trans model." And I'm like, so I'm going to say it again. You have 3 seconds, right? But, and there's other things that the trans population in general can be labelled as, no matter what they do. And so one of them that I hear most common is that for some reason, you're transgender, what are you into in bed, right?
Yes.
So apparently, because you're transgender, you're a sexual deviant, right? Now, I'm a sexual deviant because I'm a sexual deviant. It's not because I so happen to not be comfortable enough in society's views of what I should be doing with my body. Again, I'll always reiterate is that society thinks that we should be doing a certain thing with our bodies. Even cisgender people are told by society what they should be doing with their bodies, and I always find trans people being able to be like, it's such bullshit, and I always find cisgender people not knowing that, or not being aware of the idea of what society wants their bodies to be conditioned as.
I think bodily autonomy just in general in society for anyone is usually a pretty weak concept. Something that we don't seem to kind of even especially when parents don't towards their children. Like, I think it's an awful lot of time you're kind of like, we're going to put this person here, and this is what we're going to put on the child, this is what they're going to wear, this is where they're going to go. There's
boy blue and girl pink.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of kind of control over people's bodies.
Scissoring's not a real thing.
Yeah.
It's just
Try it.
It was invented by straight men directing for it.
No, honestly, I tried
Not a
scissoring
thing.
and it worked, but because I have a penis. So There you go. Scissoring can work.
In certain situations, scissoring works. I retract my statement.
Brush that one off.
And completely lost my train of
I wasn't afraid.
Now all you
We
can
go.
It's all good.
It's fun.
Yeah.
You were talking about totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, sorry.
So
Anal and scissoring, that's where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
anal scissoring.
I got an and in there. Just
Okay.
anal scissoring. Anyway.
Right, that's my next question.
Moving on.
Yeah, just something about the fact that, again,